I want to do a podcast episode and talk about the research on the topic of what drives people to do extreme sports and if it's beneficial for their mental health. The reason why I chose to do this research was because I put myself in the hospital from doing extreme sports and still continue to do them. Wanted to know why I do these sports and still keep coming back to them. I want to start by explaining the pre-notions of these sports and go into why they are deemed as extreme. These sports are defined as extreme due to the tendency of the danger levels they exhibit if not performed carefully. Serious injuries are common among these adrenaline junkies who participate, with many fatalities being reported every year. The traditional notions and perspectives the public has developed of extreme sports is that it's become too risk averse. For example, from an extreme sports morbidity or mortality risk table between 2006 to 2011 for the sport of freediving, out of 417 freediving accidents, 308 were fatal and 109 were non-fatal, only resulting in injuries. Authors have proposed that extreme sport participation is just an outlet for those attracted to the glamour of the danger and risk-taking, or for others who belong to a subculture and clamor through these extreme sports having the desire to brag. Despite their popularity in this day and age, there are still negative perceptions of extreme sports, particularly focused on the heightened accidents and incidents that occur. I want to give perspective upon the general assumptions on why people do these sports and be able to debunk those pre-notions by providing valid reasons as to why people actually keep coming back. As said above, there are a handful who do participate in these sports to brag and belong to a subculture, but there are others who are driven by a different factor. The factor that drives them lies within their genetics, specifically on key genetic links. Within these sports, genetics have been explored to have links between high-risk activities and genetic markers. The D4 subtype of the dopamine receptor that inhibits adrenaline cyclists has been noticed to be linked with risk-taking and novelty-seeking behavior from a teleological perspective. ADHD has also been seen as a common recurring trait in these high-risk participants, seen in a case presentation comparison table of 3 extreme outdoor climbers who all have ADHD. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter most associated with these action sports, with a clear link of the adrenaline, dopamine, endorphin surge. This surge they get is like the phenomenon seen in gambling and heavy risk professionals, driving these participants to go back to these sports. Highlighting the DRD4 receptor link being seen in another study, researchers believe that people with a variant of the DRD4 receptor are drawn to these riskier sports with a genetic predisposition to do so. This variant was found in individuals who reported riskier behaviors and were of the certain genotype, all sharing a similar genetic constitution. It is believed that this genetic trait produces more dopamine receptors, affecting these participants in 2 possible different ways. First, it can mean someone with more receptors needs more stimulation than others, hence pushing themselves to riskier limits. The second theory is that these receptors experience a greater burst of dopamine during intense situations, making the rush much more higher than someone with the average number of receptors. For the participants who experience severe hyperactive impulsive attention deficit activity disorder known as ADHD, extreme sports can be a fairly common experience, even providing therapeutic neuromodulation for the positive reinforcement and extort by dopamine, serotonin, and epinephrine, and neurohypothalamic pituitary adrenaline axis activation. The dopamine and norepinephrine neurotransmitter surge can help modulate behavior and dysregulate multiple brain pathways involved in attentional and impulse control processes. Putting into simple terms, they are able to regulate themselves and withstand impulsive and disruptive behavior when partaking in these sports. These extreme sports can also serve as a temporary antidepressant lifting mood for at least a short-term basis. The combination of these rushes these participants experience, from the endogenous rush of multiple neurotransmitters from the physical extreme activity, boost and fuel the constant surging of dopamine and endorphin surge these participants' brains are eager for. These genetic links are what cause the highs of these rushes that drive people to do these sports and keep coming back, because they are unachievable other than through these experiences. This kind of feeling from these highs these athletes endure wouldn't even consider a life without the excitement of these powerful emotions. These participants have earned the name sensation seekers because they are characterized by the need to try these extreme thrills to create these high emotional situations, which develops a sort of shivering tolerance from the dopamine rush, forcing them to chase these higher doses of emotion to reach the same sensation as before. Participants explain this out-of-body experience as a euphoric experience that can last a few days at most, stating it's a way to control their fear and enjoying the risk, with it being a genuine test of their abilities. While finding their limits, they are able to concentrate and quiet their mind, becoming hyper-focused, which can cause an overall calm experience for them. The overall impact of extreme sports on these participants' health and well-being, as stated from them, is it induces positive emotions and creates resilience, facilitating the development of skill and physical capacities that support everyday life, while developing powerful relationships with the natural world and pro-environmental behaviors, and also having the potential to be used as therapeutic intervention to address everyday struggles, as hence drug abuse, providing a deep connection with themselves while being authentic and forming a sense of freedom, living life to the fullest, and touching their full potential. Furthermore, being able to form a deep trust between people and partners with their bonds that can have a good impact on their mental health and relationships. Overall, a lot of these participants in extreme sports keep going back because of these genetic links that provide the highs they love to chase, while using extreme sports as a therapeutic way to regulate themselves and the positive impact these sports bring for their mental health and well-being, concluding that extreme sports participants could be driven genetically and allow them to have an outlet that's beneficial to their mental health.